recording right now. So first of all, thank you for making the time to talk to me today. I'm really happy that you have the time, because in light of this year's Earth Day and with Matched.io being a really tech-driven startup, we thought it was the perfect time to kind of demystify some of the questions that are asked so frequently around tech and sustainability. And so I'm joined by you today, Agnes. I hope I say your name right, Agnes. Agnes
Yeah,
Crepet.
yeah, I'm Agnes. So I'm French, as you guess, with my accent. You have to bear with my accent during the next minutes. But yeah, in French you say Agnes Crepet.
Agnes Crepet.
Exactly. So I'm French, but I'm living in Amsterdam since 2018 because I joined Fairphone in 2018.
So Fairphone exists. It was founded 2013, right?
Yeah, but it started before, by the way. It started in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a company, but it was an awareness campaign around conflict minerals, you know. So some tech activists people decided to raise awareness about these conflict minerals, so the tin, tantal, gold, and tungsten.
Mm-hmm.
They are the conflict minerals. So, you know, when you extract those kind of minerals, you can be involved in this kind of conflict, especially in Africa. So it started like that. And after 2 years, 3 years, those Dutch people decided to launch a company. Because
Mm-hmm.
at one point they had the feeling that you had to be part of the business to be credible,
Mm-hmm.
right? Otherwise, you can, you can bring awareness, you can do some petitions or whatever, but you have to be part of it at one point. So they decided to launch this company in 2013. You are right, and it was at the end of 2013. It was indeed the launch of the first fund, the first Fairphone, with only 3 minerals: tungsten and tin. Yeah.
So when you talk about conflict minerals, what I can kind of imagine what defines a conflict mineral, but could you maybe extrapolate a little bit more on?
Yeah, sure. So officially speaking, I mean, when you speak about those conflict minerals, they are officially only four. But I mean, so the 4 ones are tin, tungsten, gold, and tantalum. Okay. But the fact is, behind some other minerals, you have also some conflicts. So what do I mean by conflict? I mean by in Africa, for example, I can tell you that, for example, in RDC, Republic Democratic of Congo, some of the mines where you can extract gold or tungsten or whatever, they are under the control of mafia, etc. And you have some conflicts between mafia and the governments, etc. And you have a lot of corruptions also. This is what we call conflict minerals. It means that those minerals, the extraction of those minerals, could finance some conflicts.
Right.
So it's not good, right?
Yeah.
It's not a big surprise because this kind of awareness started 10 years ago, so now the people are more aware. But a lot of people still do think that we cannot do something, but we can do something. Because, for example, when you have a fair trade label on a mine, like on the chocolate, it means that the workers are working under certain conditions, and the mines is under certain conditions which guarantee a kind of freedom or independence, etc. So it's doable to do the thing better, and this is why Fairphone is here, right? This is why Fairphone entered into the game.
Yeah, it's beautiful, because oftentimes people they don't really see tech and conservation work as maybe something that is a symbiosis, let's say, more of a paradox. How can that go together? So yeah, I was really happy to find out about the work that Fairphone does. And you could, so that's really their or your main mission, to make the design.
Indeed, to have the possibility to integrate fair materials. So fairer materials means to have the possibility to guarantee good working conditions for the workers. But that's not only about fair materials, but it's also the goal of Fairphone is also to look at the working conditions for the people working on the factory in China. So it's not only the mines, it's also the another parts of the lifespan of the product, you know. Once you have the minerals, once you have refined those minerals, and once you have the components, electronic components, and once you have to do the in the factory to do the phone, to build the phone based on those components, then you have the workers in the factory. And I think you know also that you have a lot of bad working conditions for those people. So Fairphone is also on that. The good working condition on the whole supply chain. Fairphone is also on the long-lasting design. So when you have a Fairphone, you can change the screen, change the battery, change the speakers, the camera, blah, 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 blah. Why? Because thanks to that, you can increase the lifespan of the product.
Right.
Because if you manage to have a long-lasting device, you can keep it longer. So you have to produce less phones, because the production of the phones is the most horrible step in the lifetime in the lifespan of the product. That's right. More or less 75% of the CO2 emission.
Yeah.
So if you produce less, that's better. But you can produce less if you manage to make your phone last longer. So that's the third action, the third key area of Fairphone. And the last one is about recycling and reuse.
Right.
How we can recycle, how we can reuse some materials within our phone, and how we can recycle some phones, even if they are not Fairphone.
Wow, yeah.
Voilà. So that's Fairphone. That's quite broad. But on the other hand, I mean, you know, that's also where the bad things happen in the electronic industry. So it's difficult to do only a modular phone if you don't look at the working condition of the people building this phone. That's a bit pity, you know.
How do you feel about because obviously people always want to have the newest phone and they want the best camera, and how do you balance, you know, you want people to buy your product, so you need to stay up to date and have a good modern product, but then, you know, that creates maybe more waste.
Yeah, indeed. So indeed, some people want to have the shiny new phone, etc. What we do, I was speaking just before about the fact that you can change some component with a new phone. So for example, we launched our last phone in 2019, and 1 year after, we launched a new camera module on this phone, a better one. So if you are really, you know, hooked on the camera quality, if you want to have the shiniest camera to take nice picture, why not? I mean, okay, I'm not judging someone here.
Yeah.
Then you have the possibility to improve the quality of your camera just buying a small component.
Wow.
So think about, you know, the fact that, okay, just doing that, it lets you just keep your phone longer. Because that's the same phone. You just have to change a teeny part of this phone, right? Just this teeny part.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of replacing the whole thing and then extracting minerals.
Yeah, and within the phone, you know, the most difficult thing is the processor. So the core module, which is here. That's the most difficult thing to produce. And when you produce a core module, the CO2 emissions are super high, right? For the screens, it's not that high. For the battery, it's not that high, etc. So if you can keep the core module, that's better. So, you see me coming, you can keep your processor, you can keep your, what we call a chipset also. And you just have to change the thing around. So the camera, the screen, if you break it, the battery, because the battery after 2 or 3 years could be not that good. So that's the idea of Fairphone also, to build a modular phones, to either change a part if you break it, or improve the quality of this part, because we are also doing that.
That's awesome. Did a long journey from the first phone to what you have right now. I think it's Fairphone 3 Plus.
Yeah, the Plus is the new camera, what I was speaking about just before. Right. Yeah, and some audio improvement and more recycled plastic.
Right. Yeah. I think it's around 40% now.
And
that's awesome. And
you mean between Fairphone 1 and Fairphone 3? What happened?
The major differences. I guess it's a lot. It's been some time.
Yeah. So we are still improving, of course. We have to improve. We are not completely fair, because we still have some minerals which are not fair. So compared to Fairphone 1, we increased the number of components of minerals, of fair minerals, of conflict-free minerals, of child labor-free minerals. At the beginning, it was just for Fairphone 1, it was just the tin and the tungsten, which were just conflict-free. And step by step with Fairphone 2 and with Fairphone 3, we reach a higher amount of minerals. But the main difference is also about the design of the phone. Fairphone 1 was not so modular. It was just doable to change the battery easily. You didn't have glue or something like that, But it was not a modular phone. Fairphone 2 in 2015 introduced the modularity. It was the first phone in the world, the first smartphone in the world having this kind of modularity to do what I was explaining just before, to change the component if it's broken. So it was the first phone with this modularity, and then of course Fairphone 3 increased a bit this modularity. For example, one interesting thing is bringing modularity in your design could be not so good in terms of CO2 emission. I mean, the modularity itself could cost a bit. For Fairphone 2, it costed something like 12% of CO2 emission.
Just to have that.
Just having the modularity could have this kind of additional CO2 emission. And now for Fairphone 3, we have only 2.6%. The modularity has a cost, but not that high.
Right.
So, we try to also improve our design, to have an eco design of the phone. We kept some minerals also, the tantalum, because the tantalum is a conflict mineral. And we improve also the quality of the phone, of course, because Fairphone 2 was not that good, to be honest, in terms of quality. We learned a lot. It was a good phone, but Fairphone 3 is an excellent phone.
Yeah.
So that's, if you look at the field failure rates or this kind of thing, there is no comparison to Fairphone 2. That's a better phone in terms of quality. So that's good also for the people because they can keep also the phone longer, etc.
I guess it's the natural design process. You get feedback from the phone, and I mean, cannot start with Fairphone 3 Plus. It's just natural. Is your specific? I guess you kind of talked about it a little bit. That's really your role at Fairphone to reach that longevity of a product. Is that correct?
Yeah, so on software. So at Fairphone, I'm the head of software longevity, because when you see a smartphone like this smartphone, you have two main domains, right? The hardware, so the materials, etc., the core module, the camera, whatever, and the software, right? That's the main components of a phone, the main pillars, I would say. And I was only speaking until now about the modularity, the long-lasting hardware design, right? With the fact that you can change your camera, blah, blah, blah. It's better to keep your phone longer. Okay. But of course, to make your phone last longer, the software plays a big role here, right? Yeah. I can give you some examples. For example, the teenagers or young adults or adults, I don't know, who are hooked on Snapchat, you know, this kind of, or TikTok or these kind of things, you know. Those kind of apps sometimes don't work with, let's say, Android 8. You know, the companies behind those apps stopped the support for a special version of Android 8, let's say. So your phone on the hardware side could be just perfect, but you cannot use it because you cannot use it, but the usage is not that nice. Because you cannot use Snapchat because your phone is stuck, let's say, on Android 8. Because the manufacturer behind the phone, let's say, don't support highest version of Android. It happens a lot, you know. Perhaps the people are not super aware about that, but a lot of phones don't have a long-lasting software support. So you have a phone with an old Android version. So we can say, okay, some people could say, yeah, I don't care that much. But yeah, see, you care. Because some apps are not working anymore on this kind of old Android version. And so the app topic is the easiest thing to explain, but also about the security update. You know, if you don't have a up-to-date software, your data, your personal data could be at risk because you don't have the security updates anymore, right? So it is important to have a latest version of Android on your phone. We are working on Android. I mean, I'm not speaking about some niche like Ubuntu Touch, this kind of alternative OS operating system. I'm not speaking about iOS because that's just for Apple, you know. So Android is the largest operating system for the mobile industry. If you skip iOS, let's say. So yeah, what I was explaining is you need to find a way to implement a latest version of Android on your device. But your device, as hers, Fairphone, could become older, right? And when you have an old device, it's super difficult to implement a new version of Android. Right. Why? Because your processor, the core module, which is, for example, a Qualcomm core module or MediaTek core module, the company behind the core module don't support anymore the newest version of Android. So you are, let's say, long story short, in between two monopoly, Google, Android, and the chipset vendor. So you are in between, you, the manufacturer of the phone, or you, the user. Yeah. And you're stuck, right? So what Fairphone is doing, what my team is doing, is to implement some stuff, some layers between the chipset vendor and Android to make sure, by some kind of magic, that you can implement the newest version of Android on an old phone. Right. 2 years ago, we launched Android 9, so a recent version of Android on Fairphone 2, a 5-year-old phone. Nobody did that in the industry, and I did it with my team of 10 people. Wow. So I'm not blaming someone, but you can imagine if all the companies like Samsung or I quote some people here, LG, Motorola could do the same, you know? They have more resources, etc. So if a small team with 10 people could manage to do it, I think the industry could also do it in a broader side. What do you think keeps the other major companies from doing that? Because, you know, I mean, who is interested in making a phone last longer in the industry? I mean, that's better for your potentially for some companies, that's better for them to sell a newest phone, a shiny newest phone every year, because you can get some money.
It's ultimately.
And we want to change. So, come back on the beginning of the story. If you are not part of the industry, if you are just saying, yeah, that's good to build a long-lasting phone and to have some conflict-free minerals on it, etc., nobody is looking at you. But when you are a real actor of the industry, like us, Fairphone, then we can say, hey, it's doable, we do it. And then you can potentially influence some other competitors. So that's our goal, right? We are within the industry to influence it from the inside out.
Yeah. So there's also other companies maybe reaching out to Fairphone for advice and.
That's an excellent question. So indeed, we are a social company, a B Corp company, meaning that the financial status is not the only KPI, right? The other KPI are, for example, the number of recycling funds, the number of years that the users are keeping their Fairphone, blah, blah, blah. And another KPI is the number of partners that we influence. So you are right. We are trying to measure that, right? And we are successful at the end of the year only if we reach our goal. Last year, for example, we launched a Cobalt Fair Alliance, right, in RDC, in the Congo. And we managed to have a decent fair cobalt mines, let's say. And Tesla, Volvo, Glencore joined us, right? And Tesla is not Fairphone in terms of volume. If you are Tesla, you are buying more cobalt, right? If you are Fairphone, you are buying cobalt, but not that much. So our goal is to change the electronic industry. Our goal at Fairphone is not to do the best phone in the world. Our goal is to change the electronic industry. If in 10 years, Fairphone is not here anymore, we don't care that much, as long as the other ones change.
Yeah.
So that's super important for us to measure that, to check if all the people are doing the same compared to us. So if we have 0 companies who do the same, it's not good. So we are measuring that.
Right. That's I mean, the phone is kind of it's there, like it's the product that you're selling, but underlying there's this mission to.
That's the excuse, or the demo, that's the thing that we can bring in front of people saying, hey, we do it. That's a good proof of concept. That's not only a proof of concept because we have now, we are selling 100K phones per year. So the volume is quite good. So it's not only a POC, proof of concept, that's something else. That's, again, we have to be part of the industry to be credible.
That makes sense. What do you think other companies that might also be tech related, but not really comparable with Fairphone, do you think that there's anything you would recommend generally to be acting more sustainably as a company or as a startup?
I hope that at one point more tech companies will be more sustainable driven or whatever. I hope so, because we have to. We are now speaking more about the climate change, etc. So but my take is to take inspiration, right? To see what other companies are doing, not only Fairphone, but you have other companies, other tech companies, which try to change also the world in a good way. So my take would be for them to be aware, to be interested in this kind of tech for good businesses, because now it's growing. So this is why I'm a bit optimistic for once, because I'm 43 years old, and when I started to work, it was 20 years ago. You didn't have this kind of companies, Now, if you just look at Europe, for example, you have a lot of companies which try to change the world in the better path. That's happening. It's not comparable to compared to 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into the trap thinking that nothing changes, but especially in the environmental activism space. But there is actually a lot. Maybe what upsets people is the speed at which things are going, but there is improvement, definitely.
With improvement, and you have collective like Green IT, this kind of thing, which promotes those kind of company. The B Corp concept, the B Corp label is a good initiative also. So it's happening, it's changing.
Do you think there's something that can be considered in the recruitment of people as well, concerning sustainability? Because Match.io, who I work for, is trying to connect developers to the right job. So really trying to consider their interests and how they want to improve and what job would be perfect for their career, really.
So that's a good question. I do think that we, I don't know who, but a lot of people have to do a lot of things on that field. Because I was a teacher, by the way, in engineering school in France 3 years ago. During 3 years, I was a teacher in this kind of engineering school. And even last week, 2 weeks ago, I had a call with one of my previous students. And she was like, yeah, Agnes, I saw you interview, blah, blah. I want to be part of a company like Fairphone, but how I can do that? So she is a developer, right? For example, this woman, she is a developer. And she was like, yeah, but how I can manage to find this kind of nice companies, because I don't want to work for the bank sector, blah, blah. I want to do exactly the same as you. I was like, yeah. I'm still humble. That's huge. I was super happy. I mean, I had a lot of conversation like this one, a lot of, even when I was a teacher, I had already this kind of question from the young students, right? So again, if I have to compare with my own situation 20 years ago when I was a student, again, it's a big shift. In my, in my classroom, I didn't have any people interested in that. They were, 99% of the students went in the corporate world, working for big companies, etc. Nobody were looking at alternatives or sustainable companies, etc. And now it's not the same. I'm not saying that 70% of the students are on it, rather than just 10 or 20, but that's something, right? And what I noticed is those students with this kind of awareness, with this kind of willingness to work in an alternative field, they are lost, completely lost. They're like, yeah, but what can I do? So I try to give them some tips, like, you can follow the B Corps, you can check if among those B Corps, some of them are interesting for you, depending on your expertise, blah, blah, blah. But they are a bit lost. So if companies like you exist, that's nice. Because you can, I'm not sure if I have understood properly what you are doing, but if you put in contact some developers with some companies, and especially companies with a sustainable aspect, it's great.
Yeah, because I also felt the same urge to make a change with the skill I have, but it is so difficult to find the right job and to feel really fulfilled in what you do and align with the mission of the company. So it's really important to really consider that, because so many people are trying to make a change, and then they can be lost.
They can be lost. And if some companies like your company could facilitate, for them, this kind of relation would be nice.
Yeah.
This match, I would say,
Really exciting. And I have a few more questions. I hope you have some more time, a little bit.
I have 15 minutes.
Minutes?
I have 15 minutes.
15, perfect. Okay, we can do that. I was just wondering about, again, your work at Fairphone, and maybe you can share something really exciting that you're really proud of, an achievement that you've made at Fairphone that you would like to share?
Yeah, so, I was quickly speaking about what we did 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been working on a project with some colleagues since almost 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
1.5 years. This project was to implement a newest version of Android on an old phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a super complex project because, again, we were in between Qualcomm, the chipset vendor, and Google. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult. I don't want to dive into the technical details, but to have to be able to ship Android in the field, mm-hmm. you have to do a certification if you want to ship a stock Android, the standard Android. Mm-hmm. So you have to ask Google to certify your Android. Right. And to do that, to pass this certification, you have to pass 477,000 tests, right? So that's a test suite. Bam, you implement your Android, and then you have to pass this certification and this bunch of tests. And during the last month, only 10 tests failed among those 477,000. Wow. So for 10 tests, we are like, okay, we will fail for sure. It's not doable, etc. So, we were completely stuck. We tried to keep some hope, but at one point we were like, oh my God, we tried to do everything. In the end, we managed, and I cannot explain you everything because it will be a bit long, but we managed. We did it. We rolled out this new Android version a few weeks ago. It's for me, I'm so proud of that. And I really hope it will influence all the partners to do the same, all the competitors. Because again, if you want to do something to keep your phone last longer, you have to look at software also.
Mm-hmm. That's such a beautiful feeling to have. Make a difference. And what do you think, how long was the whole process from start to finish?
For this kind of project, you mean?
Yeah. Until...
Yeah, it was, normally 1 year you can do it, right? We spent a bit more time because we had those struggles and those issues in the end, but normally in 1 year you can implement a new version of Android in a new phone, in a phone, even if it's old.
So you must have had a party after that,
Yeah, so we are still under the Corona time, but I hope at one point I will be able to go to a party with my colleagues.
Yeah, I hope so too. And then one last question that is inspired by the new book by Bill Gates. I don't know if you've read it. It's called How to Prevent a Climate Crisis. And he's talking a lot about, one of the only things that can save us is innovation. And I was wondering if you have any ideas on how to facilitate for innovation. Is there anything we can do to motivate people more to work on this kind of stuff?
So, I heard about this book. I didn't read it, by the way. Just a side note on that. I really think that, I'm sorry for this last word, but I really think that tech won't save the world, right? It could, but tech is not the only way to save the world, right? And you were speaking about, and if we have to speak about innovation, I would like to speak about social innovation, not only tech innovation, right? If we can, and speaking about tech, if we can see tech as a social tool also, or if we can try to understand the opacity that you can have behind tech, because again, the smartphone, you cannot have a smartphone in a tree. A smartphone is built by some people.
Yeah.
So I would like to have the tech companies, for example, the tech companies which builds electronic device, more interested on the social innovation, more focused on the people behind the supply chain, right? To make the change together, because I really think that if we stay in our Occidental point of view, without speaking about the people in China as something the fun, without thinking about the people in Africa, digging into the earth for the mineral extraction, we are not in the good way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I really think that we indeed innovation could be a good thing, to save the world, but not only the tech innovation. Or the tech innovation should be inclusive.
Mm-hmm. It's just
right?
it's a little part of it.
For example, just one thing. Last week I was listening to a podcast which interviewed the guy from Lomé in Togo, and this guy, I can give you the contact later, is taking care of a fab lab in Lomé, and we are working on the new concept of smart city, right? So that's the tech guy. But for him, he tries to promote another approach of the smart city, including the human being, right? And he tried to promote this vision. And I think, from my white perspective in Amsterdam, etc., I should look at those inspirations also. Those people in Africa who do some stuff right now. So we have to break also our model. Bill Gates is not the only model in this world.
Yeah.
To be honest, I do prefer look at this kind of guys in Lomé right now. My inspirations are more in this kind of countries.
Local, I guess.
Local and outside Europe, outside America, North America, but more in Africa, Asia. Yeah, we have to break some cliche a bit,
I totally.
Bill Gates is not the guy who inspires me.
Yeah, I really like that approach, because we're already so Americanized. Everything. Yeah. So it is good to kind of look at, what I was saying, at the local, what is really happening there. And I really, really like what you're saying. I was feeling a strange undertone reading the book, so I think you explained it really well why that could be. Okay, so I want to thank you so much for your time.
You're
again.
welcome.
I feel enlightened, really. It's always so inspiring to talk about people that have, that are driven by their passion and want to change the world. So I hope that the viewers will feel the same way. And I'm sure. And I wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thanks for your time also. Thanks for reaching out.